boy. All right, Commissioner, it's rolling whenever you're ready.
Ready to go?
Oh, actually, let me get rid of the fireplace. Huh.
We good?
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. We'd like to welcome you all to our County Commission meeting this morning, Monday, the 27th day of January, 2020. It's 9 o'clock, and appreciate your attendance this morning. We'll begin this morning. Adam Snow will offer us an opening prayer, and then we'll have Jeannie Bartholomew lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are grateful to meet this morning in the work of the county and of the people in this area, this great state of Utah. We ask thy blessing to be upon these commissioners, upon the public servants and the residents of this county, and as well as of our nation, that we can follow the foundational principles of the Constitution and be led according to thy will to best serve those around us and to guarantee the rights and freedoms afforded to each one of us, bestowed upon us by thee. And this we do humbly say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Adam and Jeannie. Appreciate that. All right, first thing on the agenda this morning is to approve the minutes of January 13th, 2020. I know there was one little correction that our clerk, John Whitaker, made. Is there any other discussion that on the minutes? If
That was it.
not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move for approval of the minutes of the January 13th, 2020 commission meeting.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes, January 13th, 2020. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Next item is departmental reports. Assessor Cindy Bullock.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
We finished last year under budget. There were a couple of line items that I was over, vehicle operations and fuel. One of the reasons on the vehicle operations, we had budgeted for a new car, but we didn't buy it, kind of anticipating that we're going to get the fleet and trying to just get another year out of the one that we have. But it did, then I had to put a little bit of money into one of the existing vehicles that we had, tires and stuff like that. So not a big deal. And overall, definitely was under budget. But those two items, and I talked to Dan, and we did change up the fuel budget for 2020 because of that. We are just getting ready to send out our personal property notices. Those will go out sometime in the next month. We have finally come into the 21st century, and we'll be able to do those online, so we're really excited about that. Always a little bit scary the first year that you try a new program, but we bought the program from Tooele County. They've been using it for a couple of years. They also have Tyler, which is our tax administrative system, so should be pretty seamless. As you know, or if you don't, the minimum that you have for filing is 15,000. That was up pretty significantly from the previous. So in Iron County, that means probably, I think it was 2/3. That's off my mind, but I can't remember exactly. But I think that basically means 2/3 of our small businesses will no longer have to pay personal property. We brought that up, and we worked really hard as the assessors group with Taxpayers Association and the sponsor of that bill to come up with a number that we felt was would exempt most of those small businesses, but still allow, like the solar companies to pay. Those would have been a huge tax shift and would have put a burden on our residential taxpayers had we not kept something in personal property. Also, we talked about it a little bit, and I talked to Mike, but the change to the primary exemption where the assessor the bill says the assessor will send notice to everyone in the county whose mailing address doesn't match their situs address. If they don't respond, then their property will automatically be changed to secondary. But there's a but in the law that unless you have had an ordinance in place and have been following it for the last 5 years, and we have had an ordinance in place, we have been following it, double checked with Mike, and with recommendation from council, we are going to fall under that exception, so we will not be sending those to everyone in the county, which is good. That's going to save us some money for some things we hadn't planned on, but we will continue to send those primary residential exemption applications out, and we'll be following those a little more closely than we have. We have a new employee that is starting in 3 weeks. She is comes with a great deal of experience, 24 years in the assessment world, but doing it for government. She's relocating from Vermont, so it's taking her a little while to get here, but it'll be a really good addition. She's originally from Utah, met her husband at Rick's, and they were supposed to take this 1-year job in Vermont, and 24 years later, she's finally getting to move home. So I'll introduce you to her when she starts, but we're excited to have Michelle. Still trying to coordinate with Rhonda and figure out when we can do a retirement party for her. She has been gone for a while, but really wanting to at least acknowledge that she put a lot of time in, and as soon as we can coordinate when it will work with her, she's traveling to Salt Lake 3 days a week for some physical therapy, so it's just been hard to figure out when she's going to be here, and we can do that, but we're hoping to get that done sometime this first quarter. UAC on Thursday, I am planning to go up to the legislative what is it called?
Day on the
Committee.
Hill.
Yes.
Day on the Hill.
Well, the committee, but it's the Elected Officials Day on the Hill, or whatever,
right.
Local Elected Officials Day on the Hill on Thursday, so I will be going up to that. And that's all I have, unless you have questions for me.
So, just clarification on the primary versus secondary property. So, if you don't have a secondary residence, you're not going to get a notice. That's a poorly asked question.
So, if you have lived in the same home for a number of years and your mailing address and your situs address are the same, you will not. If something causes that to come across what we call our workflow, if you do a change of ownership and you put it, for example, from Mike and Amy Blake to a trust, that will come across because technically that is a change of ownership. Then we will look at that, and if the address is still the same, you will not. If for some reason now you decide that you want to have those bills sent to an address in St. George, it will flag it and we will send that to you.
Okay.
So anytime we get something that comes across, like I said, our task flow, which is basically a change in ownership, sometimes It will even be if you have a house on 100 acres and you segregate part of that, it will come across. So we send those anytime there is a change. Does that answer?
It does. Thank you.
Right, any other questions? Or? Thanks, Cindy.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. We'll now hear from our treasurer, Nicole Rosenberg.
I have tons of handouts today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so since this is my first report since the end of the year, I'm supposed to do a yearly reckoning with, well, actually more than yearly, but a reckoning of everything we've collected through the year. So the first paper I handed is our product sales net. That is for everything that was collected last year. So between personal property, real property, motor vehicle, 57 million is what was collected, 57,330,000. So the second one is just of what we collected that went to the county. So just only what was distributed to the county. So that's at the 11,535,000 that went just to county. And then of course I like to include our pooled cash report. Just shows you what the balances are in all of our bank accounts so that you have those totals. So we're sitting right now at about 38 million in all of our accounts. So definitely we're doing well. In our PTIF, the interest rate is down. At the beginning of the year, we were at 2.91, and as of last month, we were down to 2.28. So that is going down a little bit. But last year, we still brought in more interest. We brought in $885,000. The year before, we did 753, so we were 100,000 over still. So probably our balance in our account a little bit higher, and at the beginning of the year we still had a good rate. So our outstanding taxes, I have that included. Right now they're sitting at 6,847,000. It's up a little bit from the previous year, but not too horrible.
How much is that from the one large one?
I actually
percentage?
brought the top 25. I should have put the
Top 25.
on the
Dubious
25 the top 25 naughty list, but of course it is 4,735,000 of that is just black iron alone, and the top 25 are 5,640,000. Just so we have a few larger ones that we hope will eventually get paid. Some of those are Union Pacific that's appealing in the 2018. So we're just on waiting mode for those for whoever knows how long. One thing I'm supposed to do the first week of February is to deliver to the county commissioners a list of every delinquent taxpayer.
Thank you.
For all of my 16 closed the last month, I found that I'm supposed to deliver that, so there is a list to all of you.
That's for 2019.
That's actually everything.
Everything.
Anyone that has a delinquency at all. So there is good reading material for you, since there's around 4,700 accounts on there. So
Glad that other search prompted you.
just what you want
Thank you.
to look through that. We have started, of course, looking toward the May tax sale. As soon as we finish collecting, we go right on to the next project. Good news, though, we're starting at only 204 that we will be mailing certified out to. So that's down. Last year we started at 275. In 2017 we actually started 352. So I'd like to think our searching for addresses and all of that's really helping. So Nicole Bess is busy doing that. We really try. We use that Been Verified. We've been out there really trying to track people down. So we're hoping that that will help those get lower and lower. And my budget, of course, we're starting a new year. It's great. Last year I ended well under, and so just want to say I'm sure grateful to have good people, that we survived another tax season, and it went really well, and just grateful to have good people. If you have any questions or...
Thanks for that great report. Any questions for?
No, thank you.
I was curious, and I know I should ask this a couple of minutes ago, but on the one number where you said 11.35 or 535 went to the county, was that Fund 10? Did that include the unincorporated, the municipal services?
It's the general, library, health,
Oh, okay.
county, ANC, municipal, and then anything that we collect, if landfill's attached, state assessed penalties, delinquent personal property, anything at all that I collect that goes up through Dan's office. So it's for county
So that
funds.
wasn't just Fund 10. That's
Yeah, that's everything that goes to the county that is tax monies. So
and that was the 11.535 number.
yes,
Awesome. Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay.
Thank you very much. All right, our recorder, Carrie.
Well, good morning.
Morning.
All right, so our recordings for the year were up about 700, but basically they're pretty close to the same. So we had 14,942 last year, and we had 15,683 this year. Our subdivisions were up quite a bit for the year. We had 31 subdivisions this year, so that's quite a few. Of course, our revenue, was way up from last year because we increased our fees. So last year our revenue was 281,946, and this year it's 489,195. And I'm sure it'll increase a little next year too because we had 5 months of the year before our fee changed. So that's good. I finished the year under budget, just barely on some things, but quite a bit on others. So that's good. I was under on everything. One of the requirements of my office is that we take basically a snapshot of every property in Iron County as of January 1st. We call that our plat run. Basically, we have to print and scan and then copy every plat that we have. It used to be quite a big process. It would take us 4 to 6 weeks, and we can't make any changes in the new year till that's done, so then we'd have to spend some time catching up. But we don't have to make as many copies now because everything's digital, which is nice. And then we just better technology, better equipment. We've also changed the way we handle the duties in the office. So between those things, we were able to finish it in about 2 weeks this year. So it's really not too big of a deal anymore, which is nice. So we have that all done, and now we're going to be starting to work on our GIS project. So the first steps we need to do is I need to work on doing RFPs, which I've never done before. But I'm hoping Jared will help me out on that, and Dan's also offered to help. And then I need to work with Steve Platt to try and get all of our section monument sheets digitized somehow, because we have to get those in that map. And currently they're all paper copies in books in his office, so we've got to work on getting that figured out. So those are the first steps for that process. It will take a few years to finish it, but we're going to get started.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I just was curious, those copies, those
Section
section
sheets.
maps.
Mm-hmm.
So is that the only copies we have?
Yeah, I believe so.
That's going to be very valuable to get those digitally,
Yes.
right? So we have a backup
Yeah.
offsite.
And Steve doesn't like them to leave his office, but I believe he'll let me take them so I can scan them in and then return them. He likes to keep his things, which is okay.
That answers my question.
Okay.
They have to be brought over.
That's
Yeah,
that's a little scary having all those in one place.
yeah, and currently they don't have the equipment there to scan them, and I probably don't have the manpower either, but I can easily do it in my office. So
What size are they?
I don't know. As I need to work with Steve and find out.
Yeah.
There might be lots of different ones because some of them are going to be quite old, some of them are going to be newer. I don't know how they're bound in the books.
I know a lot of the old corner perpetuation was on just regular size paper,
Yeah.
which might make it easier
Yeah.
for you. But
But we've got to get them in that map, and the only way to do that is to get them digitized. So we're going to work on it.
Right.
I'll talk to Steve about that, and hopefully he'll let you take a certain
Yeah.
amount at a time.
I think he will. He's been good to let us scan the surveys. He brings them over, we scan them, he comes back and picks them up. So
Good.
it'll be okay.
Sounds good.
And that's it.
Any questions? Other questions?
Oh, thank you.
Hey,
Thanks for
thanks.
that. See, Jared, IT.
I'll play the waiting mode here for a second while John gets my.
oh, that's right.
Should come with my paper and everything else, but I figured if you're using technology, you should use technology, right? One of these times it's going to bite me.
It'd be better if I had been paying attention.
That's the report I last received from Dan for budget. It was November, end of November. It shows my overall balance. I still had 10% left. I've been visiting with Dan and everything else will be fine as far as coming out at budget or just under. But a lot of the reason why it's really close in that is we've been taking on more things into the IT budget throughout the year. A lot of it was communication stuff that just threw into my budget. So Dan's been adding it back into my budget to show that those funds are coming from other people to mine. So anyway, but overall, I feel comfortable with the budget. So unless you guys have questions about that, and then of course we're off to the brand new year, and that's where we spend probably about half the budget gets spent just on our software maintenance agreements that we have. So so a big chunk of change spent right here at the beginning, and then it just kind of levels out throughout the year. So as far as budget goes, that's that one. You got that other document too? There we go. So there's a report of our work orders that we had. I should actually put the total up there too, but we averaged about 270 work orders a month throughout the 2019 year.
Is that all?
That's all. So, and those work orders, just to give you guys a good perspective of everything that takes place, those are just ones that are emailed in from end users. So we've got on top of that all of our other projects and then all the other maintenance and everything else that has to be done with servers and whatnot. So we stay busy. We like it. It's better to be busy than not. So, and then go ahead and scroll down there. Those are some of our recently completed projects. Cindy actually brought one up that I had forgotten about. There's a few that I was missing. So, but with her new personal property one, that's one on there as well. MCAD's up and running. That implementation's going as of the end of November. ExecuTime is now going throughout. Everybody can do their time entry throughout the county. So there's a couple little training things that we're working on, but for the most part, it's up and running. We got through doing the financial training as well for the auditor and treasurer for the new version 10, and that's been working out really well. And then, of course, we got the attorneys on their new software as well, and it's been running.
There's a little more information on MCAD, will you?
MCAD is the one that we're working with at a company out of Florida, and they tie in with fire and EMS and with our Everbridge system. So it gives them a real-time perspective of what's taking place as far as calls go, and get dispatched the agencies out quicker. So they can
That's the
respond.
one that we've been struggling with. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, that's the one that has given us a little
that
heartache.
is such, you don't understand how good of news the MCAD that was. I don't even know how many man hours on everybody involved's part, and I mean it really was a couple of years, and then it got ugly for 6 or 8 or 9 months, and it finally all came together.
And it
But
did come together really good too. That November went really smooth when we got all the pieces together, and so it ended up good. So
That's good. I have it on my phone. I'll give you a demonstration at lunch.
Perfect. So here's some of our upcoming projects that we're currently working on. We got new fingerprint machines. We're actually going to start on those today, tomorrow. Hopefully we get those done within the next 2 days, get them all configured and everything. We can send all the,
Yeah.
there's two that are coming in. So and then we got to just connect them all in, make sure that all the fingerprints can get sent off to BCI, all that kind of stuff. So we'll get that going. We're just now also starting our event scheduling. It's primarily for the sheriff's office and jail, but as others need it, they can utilize it as well. But it's designed to make sure that you're fully staffed at those agencies and that, especially with them and their different shifts and everything. And then by law, they have to have so many. So this should help them out with that, and then also help them out as with allowing time off and things like that. It'll flag for that. So we're just now starting that process. We're just now also starting the fair exhibit software. We're going to write it in-house, but then we found a company that does it for pretty cheap. So we're going to go ahead and purchase from them, and then we got to do a lot of setup on our end. So they'll get us the software, but we got to do a lot of the database entry work and all that stuff. So Taylor's been working close with Joyce on that one, and we'll get it going, and they're going to help us out as well with some of the entry works on it. So
So how is that better than the stuff we've been using?
well, the stuff that we have been using is it's very difficult for reporting is what it was. So what we did is they wanted something, we threw something together really, really quick. It did what it needed to do, and it was just time to move forward and continue. And so we looked at our existing software in comparison with writing new software, and then found this new software. We just felt this was the better route to go because it's got everything implemented there, and it actually gives us room to grow as well.
Good,
So-
good. I remember when you guys did that, and that was a stellar thing. But
It was great at the time. It really was. It's
Was.
just kind of technology. It's old technology. So, and this one's good too because we'll have now a software vendor behind it that's updated all the time. It takes a load off of us, and we can just keep it updated and just roll it from year to year. So, but there's a lot of good potential for growth on it too. So, we're currently updating the website. Taylor's been working really hard on that. Hopefully, we'll see some good progress here in the next few months. We'll need some help with all the other elected officials, department heads, and that. Taylor will start contacting them and asking for what they want on the website page, information, everything that they need. So once she gets that done, and this is down the road even further, we'll end up doing an internal website as well. So we put a lot of the HR forms, things like that for employees to be able to see. So it'll be a secure place for employees to get information. So, and then the last thing that we're doing is we're working on really getting our networking. We've been having a few issues lately, and our equipment's starting to get a little bit older, so we're buying some new networking equipment, and we'll start configuring that and installing that and putting it in place. So those are our big projects. There's other projects that are still coming out in 2020, but those are the ones we're currently really working on right now. So, any questions for me?
No, I really appreciate what you guys do and working with you. It's way over my head. So I really appreciate what you do.
No problem. Appreciate that.
Likewise.
yes, I can't live without you.
It's an evil necessity, right?
We got new phones the other day, and I'm going, really? This phone will be off for 20 minutes? What will I do? A little bit too dependent on our technology. But anyway,
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Jared.
thanks.
Let's see. Commissioner Adams, do you have anything?
Just one quick thing. We did have a meeting the other day about work on private roads. We have a lot of roads in the county that aren't county maintained, but because they've never been brought up to our standard, and so we just had a good discussion about what we might do to help those people to help themselves. And there's liability involved there, but anyway, we're going to try to write up something not too obtrusive, but that allows people, if they want to do a certain amount of maintenance on their roads. And of course, many of them are doing that anyway, but just with an emphasis on safety and doing those things without causing a major hazard of some kind. But it's going to happen, so we just need to be on top of it.
Are you saying you're going to do like a checklist of things they can do so that then we will help maintain it, or what are you?
Well, we're still discussing it. I mean, this is kind of a, hard subject to broach because we don't really want to get into a situation where we're saying, okay, you have to come and get a permit if you want to do something to your road, because people that have roads that aren't, especially where they live, that aren't county maintained, they're doing work on them. And so we're just in this litigious society worried about lawsuits and so on, and so we just had a preliminary discussion about what we might do, and we kind of came to the consensus that we're not going to be heavy-handed. We just kind of hopefully people will come in and they will let us know what they're doing, and then we can monitor it. If it's anything very large, then our road people and our engineer can go out and look at it, and make sure that they don't leave some kind of a bump or a rut, or something. And of course we have our encroachment permit process that's always been in place. When somebody wants to breach one of our roads, they have to come to us, obviously. But this is more of a concern with, what they do to the road, because it's still. It may be even in a right-of-way that we own, that the county owns, but we don't maintain it because it was never brought up to our standard by the developer. So we just we don't want to be heavy-handed, but we want to have a little bit more involvement there when people are doing things to their road. So,
Thank you.
I got a couple of things. And I mentioned last meeting that I was going to go meet with some different folks on, there's a bail reform bill that's coming up in this legislative session that's, it's a little bit sticky. It's really complicated. Basically what it would do, it takes a lot of discretion away from law enforcement, and it adds a lot of responsibility back onto law enforcement, including the county, when it comes to catching people that don't show up for court. It's kind of billed as a fix to JRI, but I think it's just not good. So I met with the governor's office. I met with commissioner of public safety. Met with the Utah Sheriff's Association. Met with the director of the Utah Chiefs of Police. Met with Brandy and Lincoln at UAC. That was all in about 2 days, and kind of talked about the issue and at least have it on their radars as far as monitoring it and kind of determining what we can do to, if not kill it altogether, make some changes to make it more user-friendly, and especially just for instance, in the law enforcement category, it would make it illegal for a law enforcement officer to jail anybody on a C or a B misdemeanor. You would have to release them on a citation. You got to understand that DUI is a B misdemeanor, domestic violence is a B misdemeanor. If you had somebody drunk and disorderly and really causing a problem, that's a C misdemeanor. You could not put them in jail. And so there's those issues that we're working through, but I think we've got it on everybody's radar, and we're going to move forward with that in this legislative session.
So who's driving this?
Representative Pitcher and Senator Thatcher are the driving forces behind it. But it's heavily sponsored by Libertas and the ACLU. So it's, I don't know, in my opinion and the opinion of a lot of others, it's kind of a liberal agenda, and it's a really well-funded. I've actually got a couple of videos that really surprised me from where this is coming from. There's a couple of worldwide organizations. They actually have a video of a rally with 200,000 people rallying. I mean, this isn't a grassroots, hey, we need to look at this and fix it. This is a well-oiled machine, well-funded machine. And there's several other states that have bought off on it already. New York State implemented a similar legislative bill just this January. If you look in the news almost every day, there's horror stories of people being released when they really should be in jail, assaults. And there's a bank robber that he goes in and he shows a note to the bank. He doesn't have a gun. He gives them a note. They end up arresting him. He's immediately released. And the press is there when he's released, and he's like, yeah, I used a note. If I don't use a gun, they can't get me. I know that if I rob a bank just using a note, then I won't go to jail. I mean, he was very upfront. And the problem with any type of legislation like this, where you've got these kind of loopholes, and the criminals are smarter than they look for the most part, are going to find ways around it. So it's, in my opinion, it's a pretty dangerous piece of legislation. But I think we're well on the way of being out ahead of it. The other issue is jail reimbursement. Legislatively, by law, we're supposed to get a certain amount of reimbursement from the state for our jails, and the state's only paying a fraction of that, and has for years. So there's some new legislation in the works to try and get the state to comply with their own law and reimburse us in full for our jails. That's going to be a tough sell, 'cause it's a lot of money, but that's just another thing that I'm working on. And have worked on the last couple of weeks.
What's the proposal there, the increase that's being asked?
I don't remember the percentages. I don't remember the percentages. They're significant though. What's already in statute is way more significant than what we're actually receiving by. I can't remember the percentages off the top of my head, but it's significant.
Luckily, we've got Commissioner Whitney from Beaver and Leland Pollock from Garfield County on this top of this 24/7, because they have hundreds of state prisoners. We only have 10, as you know. But
right. Well, and this is reimbursement that isn't necessarily linked to prisoners. We get a certain amount of money. We get a certain amount of funding from the state, just in general, for the jail. I believe the state's paying what they owe as far as prisoner contracts go. This is money outside of that we should be receiving and are not.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I've been really busy with that for a couple of weeks. And through this legislative process, I'm on it. So
thank you.
That's what I've been doing the last couple of weeks.
Okay. I have just a couple things. I've been working with Lori Eichelberger with Justice Court. They're struggling a little bit with some turnover in their department, their clerks. One of the thing that, and I haven't had a chance to talk to the other two commissioners, but one thing that we're struggling with is traffic school is now, Cedar City's allowed that to be done online, which is great news. I guess the only one that doesn't do that is SUU. Hopefully they may sometime, but I guess the thing that really occupies the majority of their time is phone calls from people wanting to know how to just details about traffic court. And so I talked to Jared and Taylor, who's doing our website, about possibly, because I talked to Ron Larson in IT, and he even had a little bit of a struggle finding where you go to find the link to go to the justice. And I just thought maybe we could put a button on the front page of our website that says traffic court, where somebody could just open it up and click on it, and then it's got really good instructions so we can kind of weed out some of those phone calls. We're going to change the message on the phone answering machine or when somebody calls to try to encourage those folks to just go online and get that taken care of. It's kind of like Chinese water torture for those clerks. I mean, they just get call after call after call. It's driving them crazy. So we're looking at improving that a little bit. Just maybe a little bit on water. We've appreciated over the years Phil Smith has let us use his gravel pit to recharge right there off Coal Creek, and that property has been sold to Western Rock, and so we appreciate them continuing to work with us on water recharge in the Cedar Valley. We've been recharging that pit for a couple of months. I think over 500 acre-feet of water, which is tremendous. It's beautiful, cold, clean water that goes in that pit and perks really well. It's just adjacent to our county gravel pit. So we're very appreciative of him. They're going to open up the Western Rock pit The larger one that we recharged about 6,000 acre feet in that valley last year. It looks like we'll have another great runoff year this year with the snowpack we've got on the mountains, and so we're on top of that with our water recharge. And I know Parowan Valley's working on some projects and made some progress, so it's exciting to be able to get that water in the ground so it doesn't go out and just evaporate in these terminus lakes that we have, Little Salt Lake and Coachepah. So just to report on that. So that's all I have. If there's nothing else, we'll adjourn this meeting and reconvene at 10 o'clock. Or not adjourn, but pause. What's the word, Alma?
Recess.
Recess, sorry. Okay, well, good morning to those that have joined us. It's 10 o'clock. We'll reconvene our county commission meeting this 27th day of January 2020. And the first thing on the agenda is public comments. Maximum of 3 minute per speaker. Should not repeat others' comments, and it's only for items not on the agenda. If there's agenda items, you can speak during that time. Anybody like to? Seeing none, we'll move on to our second item is discussion regarding the discharge of firearms and possible change to Iron County Code 9.08.010 and in reference to UCA 76.10.508 requested by Clyde Bulkey. Is that how you say that? Okay. Clyde?
Yes, sir. I'd simply like to request rescinding that county ordinance because it does nothing more than state that I can't shoot a firearm around my own residence. There's several people or lots of people in the valley. They're not anywhere near 600 feet of any other residence, and this is stating that you can't, if you had a skunk getting into your chicken coop, you can't shoot that skunk. If you go to the state statutes, it says the exact same thing, but it says I can do it as long as I have the homeowner's permission to do it. And if it's somebody else's house, I need the written consent to do it. I checked with the statutes of the other counties, surrounding counties, Kane, Garfield, and Washington, none of which have an ordinance against it. They simply abide by the state statute, stating the same thing. The only one that does have an ordinance is Beaver County, and it says the same thing that the state says.
Mm-hmm.
So Iron is the only one that's preventing an individual from shooting at their own residence, as long as they're 600 feet from anybody else.
Right.
And it's like, why is it there? To me, it should just be rescinded.
Okay.
I would generally agree with that. The state just says an individual may not discharge a dangerous weapon or firearm without written permission to discharge the dangerous weapon from the owner or person in charge of the property within 600 feet of a house, dwelling, or any other building. So that seems to make more sense than ours because people are doing it and not abiding by the law, and so obviously we want safety's paramount, but.
I think we need to be in accordance with state law with our ordinances. We had a situation in Cedar City a few years ago where one of our ordinances conflicted with state law. It was illegal to conceal carry in a park, Cedar City Park, which was in direct conflict with state law. So we revised that and made that change. So, is there any other discussion?
No, I've looked at those also carefully. I agree with you.
Would you like me to draft an ordinance to that effect for next meeting?
Does it need an ordinance or just rescind it?
Is that what we do? Is draft it and then have it on the next agenda, or do we vote, or can we actually do a vote today?
No, we need to have it on a future agenda.
Well, an ordinance would carry more weight. So,
what do
you think, Mike?
If you want to rescind it, you have to have an ordinance rescinding.
To rescind it.
To rescind the ordinance.
You have to have a public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're amending the county code. So
right. So we got to go through all that.
I would be in favor of that, yes.
So really all we need to say is that just we rescind ordinance County Code 9.08.010 and go with the state. Or just rescind it and not even say that we're going with the state, that we just, anyway, that's the state ordinance would take, that's what would take precedence. So anyway.
So do we need a motion to do that, to order John to do that, or just direct you?
I don't think, you can make it, but I will do it either.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do that and put it on the next agenda.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item number 3, presentation of PILT payment from the state of Utah. Kevin Bunnell.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for allowing some time on the agenda for For me, I'm the regional supervisor for the Division of Wildlife, and my annual visit to present the county with a check for our payment in lieu of taxes. And I have that for you here today, a check for the amount of $2,505 to account for the property that the Division of Wildlife owns in Iron County. And I also have a map that I'll present to you that shows all of the work that's been done in Iron County, well, across the state, under the Watershed Restoration Initiative, which Iron County has been a great partner for us, along with the BLM and the Forest Service and NRCS and private landowners. But it shows that since the inception of the Watershed Restoration Initiative about 12 or 14 or 13 years ago, there's been 144,400 acres of treatments done, proactive treatments done in Iron County, which ranks 4th out of all counties in the state. So a lot of work's happened in Iron County to benefit wildlife, to benefit livestock, and it's been a great partnership that we're quite proud of and appreciate the county's participation in that as well. I will let you know we continue to work on moving towards an eventual delisting proposal for prairie dogs. We're kind of taking it slow and making sure we're crossing all of our T's and dotting all of our I's, and bringing the Fish and Wildlife Service kind of along in that process. I think what the data that we have will make a compelling case. Obviously, the Fish and Wildlife Service will have the final decision there, and then it's likely to end up in courts as well. So we're trying to make sure that as we put it together, we have biologically have all the data that we need to withstand any scrutiny that it will take place. And appreciate Reed Erickson. He's been working with us lockstep in that and participating in all of those meetings and all of that work, and that's been very beneficial for us. So with that, I'll present this letter from our director and the check, but I'd be happy to answer any questions before I come up to the front if you have any.
Just thank you so much for continuing that work on the prairie dog problem. That's going to be been so much better of late.
Yeah, we're certainly in a better place than we were, and that's largely because people are working together across various agencies and authorities and everything else. But I do think that we're not going to rest on our laurels. We do have a compelling case to make biologically that prairie dogs should be considered for delisting, and we'll continue to pursue that. So.
Super. And also with the WRI projects, I like to do the math, and that's 7% of Iron County. That is huge. That is
yeah,
so
we're
good.
reaching. So we're almost 2 million acres statewide. We're starting to reach acreages that at a landscape scale will make a difference. And in certain counties, such as Iron County, when we're approaching 10%, that's making a positive difference and will for generations. And we hope to be still doing it generations from now as well. So thank you.
That's an amazing program. Go ahead, sir.
I'm talking too much. But anyway, if the public wants to know what 2 million acres is, that's Iron County. We're 2 million acres, so that much done statewide. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And that accounts for fire rehab and proactive treatments, but it all makes a big difference on the ground, and certainly benefits wildlife, but it also benefits our agricultural community as well.
Absolutely.
Well, and our watershed. I mean, it's hard to quantify that number, but those trees suck up a lot of water, and that's definitely making a difference in our aquifers. So
it is, and it will continue to do so. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sign up for you. That work?
Thanks, Kevin.
Travel
Thanks,
safe.
Kevin.
Thank you. All right. Agenda item number 4, update regarding the new visitor center at the Cedar Breaks National Monument. Kathleen Gonder.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be able to be here. And first of all, I just wanted to thank the County Commission and the Iron County Tourism for their support and your support for building a new visitor center. And the funds, I wanted to give you a report of the funds that we've received from the County Tourism has funded our design work. And I'm so excited. This is the new design. This is a rendering.
It's a lot different than the old cabin.
Well, the cabin stays.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, we don't want to get rid of it.
No.
Make that a standalone interpretive exhibit area, but it is just, I'm so
beautiful.
excited. And I have a copy of this for you with also the draft layout of the building. This is the view from Point Supreme looking towards the parking lot. So it will be at the north end of the parking lot. It will replace the, excuse me, I'll get back here to them so you guys can see too. It will replace the fee booth and the restrooms. So the restrooms will be all new. They will have increased capacity. We'll have a unisex, which we don't have right now. So we're really excited. It is about 2,600 feet of space with an additional 1,100 covered patio space, where right now we have no place for people to get in out of the weather, to do interpretive programs, to do night sky. We don't have anywhere just out in the open. And so when those monsoons come through, and it storms up there all the time, people just get in their cars and leave. And so this hopefully will help them, encourage them to stay, and especially the visitor center area, the book sales area, the exhibit area. We are expanding that I can't even tell you, quadruple, I bet. Because the old Ranger Station, which is we've used as a visitor center since 1971, only has 650 square feet. You fit maybe 15, 20 people in there, and you can't move around. So people put their heads in, and then they leave. And so we're just so excited about being able to provide really nice services for our visitors, for our staff. I was mentioning to Commissioner Adams, just being able to work in a building that is a nice building and not a shack, which is what our fee booth is. It's a shack. Our restrooms are sad. So we're really, really excited. And I have, and the map is on the back to show you, we're still working on that.
Thank you.
You.
Back.
Cool. That is cool.
Thanks.
I even have one for you.
It's amazing what they can do with these renderings nowadays, isn't it?
No, I mean,
Just
this is a
looks
design.
real.
You would think, because we took the actual landscape and then put the design in it. It's pretty amazing what they can do. So we're really excited about what's happening in the future for Cedar Breaks National Monument. I do have our visitation stats for 2018. It's 563,000. We did install new counters and position them in new places to fine-tune our count, because as you know, it was reported, I believe in 17, that we were over 900,000, and we've determined that there was some mistakes made in the winter counts especially. I mean, they counted really, really high for December that year, and it was not backed up with data, with scientific data. So we're trying to make sure that we can fine-tune that and give accurate amounts. And last Saturday, our resource specialist was up putting up snow poles, and he encountered and met up with over 75 snowshoers. So that's just on one Saturday. So we're very excited about the winter use, and hopefully it will continue to grow. Do you have any questions for me? For us?
How much snow have you got up there right now?
Last week we were almost right at 4, but we've had more, but it's really compacting down because the afternoon temperatures are so warm, even up that high. So I would imagine after this weekend that we're probably 4.5 or more.
Wow.
But good snowshoeing and skiing.
That's great.
Yeah.
This is going to be tremendous. One question: the fee structure, where people that are just going through on business, or not stopping at the park, just going through to facilitate getting from one side to the other, that won't change, will it? They'll still have to. I mean, they won't be stopped, will they?
No, we're not going to put a booth on the road. No, huh?
Okay, good.
Yeah. So it's what is helping this new and I'll get on the agenda to go into more detail about this on a meeting coming up, but the technology that we're working on actually will help us be able to tell how long a user is in the park, so that we can weed those out of people just passing through, from Duck Creek or Bryan Head, to those that are actually stopping at the overlooks. So we'll be able to fine tune our numbers even better. So I'm really excited about this new technology, and that was designed out of Dixie State. So we're excited to see what's happening from our local universities. Yeah.
That's great.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
We
the
appreciate
report.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll now move out of our Iron County Commission meeting and convene as Iron County Community Development Renewal Agency and address item number 5, the review and possible approval of tax increment payments for Utah Red Hills Renewables Community Development Area for 2019. Danny Stewart.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. This is the first of several. We're kind of helping these companies get into a routine on doing this. Utah Red Hills is our first solar development. They're a little more familiar with this process. And anyway, what we asked them to do with each of the local incentives that we put together, we require that these developers, these developments, request their reimbursement, and that they demonstrate through documentation that they've met their side of the agreement. And Utah Red Hills has done that. They've sent me documentation including receipts from their payment of taxes, letter from Reed and his department confirming that they're in compliance with conditional use permitting and all those various things. Most of these agreements are fairly similar. There are some variance between one and the other, but basically what it's telling us is that they are up and they're operating, they're in compliance, and that they have paid their taxes. And that's generally what qualifies them for this reimbursement. So your packet should have had copies of this documentation, the letter, the receipts, etc.
So for the record, what was the total reimbursement, Danny?
I should have that with me. I just have the documentation that we have. I don't.
I
know
read
if
through
have it on
this,
my
but
fingertips.
I was a little bit confused as to what the total was. It had a lot of different.
Yeah, I can find that for you. Basically, what it comes back is 70% of the new increment above and beyond what was already being paid on the property.
Okay.
And I can get that for you. I'll work with Dan to get that. And as we work through these to standardize this, so between now and April 1st, I'm not having to bring something like this to every meeting. The remaining developers with the other projects that have incentives, I'm going to give them specific dates between now and April 1st, which is their deadline. Well, probably the meeting immediately after April 1st will include that. So maybe we're only having to do this 2 or 3 times every year and include each of those as they present their information to me. And I'll make that part of the presentation is the actual amount for those.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Any other discussion or questions? Entertain a motion.
Hey, I move approval of the tax increment payments for Utah Red Hills Renewables Community Development Area presented by our Economic Development Director.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for the approval of tax increment payments for Utah Red Hills Renewables Community Development Area for 2019. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you,
Thank
Danny.
you.
Appreciate your time. We'll now reconvene as the Iron County Commission. And go to agenda item number 6, review and approval of contract with Zions Public Finance for municipal advisory services. Dan Jessen.
You guys have a copy of this contract. We completed the RFP, and Zions was awarded that contract. Of course, that was the RFP. This is the actual contract now. There was just 2 items I think that I wanted to discuss as far as what I wanted to discuss. If you guys have any questions, nothing has changed as far as their bid. The prices and everything are all the same, depending on what sort of the type of bond or whatever that they advise us on. And I've checked through all of that. It is a 5-year contract. And that was one of the things that I talked to each of you guys a little bit individually. It allows us to cancel that at any point on the 1-year mark or within 60 days of a 1-year anniversary. Also, they said they've never, if for some reason we're unhappy, they've never let anybody not get out of a contract. It's not in their interest to do that. We mentioned that we may want to look at this again in a year or possibly 2 years or something. So I have scheduled it on my calendar to put this back on as soon as I'm able to, the first agenda of next year in January, just to review. Chances are we probably won't even use them within this year. It's possible if we have a special assessment area or something like that, but I put it on there to go ahead and review it, and if we want to go ahead and review it, put it out to RFP, all I have to do is send them a letter and we're good to do that. If we don't, it'll continue to go year after year after year up to 5 years. So anyways, the other thing, and Reed just brought this to my attention, as you know, we're getting ready to sign this, and we've been using Stiefel on the current Sunset subdivision assessment area, and that has not yet closed. So there will be a small overlap as we finish out this with Sunset with Stiefel, and before Zions takes over. I specifically talked to Zions. They're not expecting to come in and take over that deal. They realize we're just closing and working with Stiefel on that. But if it gives you any heartburn, we could hold off signing this contract till the next commission meeting or after we're done closing that. Again, Zions is well aware of that. I didn't read through this with that in mind, that it might possibly put us in a conundrum, and I don't know if Mike, if you had a chance to read through that.
Yeah, but I didn't think of the issue with Stiefel.
And I've just been glancing through it.
That'd
to
be
see
addressed
if
in the
there was
motion. That
Maybe perhaps you, one suggestion would be to vote to have it approved and signed as of the date of the closing of the agreement or the issue that Stiefel's working on. As soon as that's complete, you'll agree to enter into this contract and have it signed at that time.
sign it then.
That's what I want.
It's not like we have a bond we're ready to, run away. Now, one thing that I will mention, and this is, maybe let's finish that discussion. Zions would like to come and do a Bonds 101 training. It's a really good thing. He said it wouldn't take more than about an hour, but he would like to come and spend some time with the commission, and then also do a little bit more of an in-depth back and forth. We can involve any of the staff that really is going to work with them on an ongoing basis. The treasurer, myself, Reed's been involved with a lot of these in the past, clerk's office, whoever we wanted to send, and that may go like maybe a couple of hours, but he said 45 minutes to an hour he'd like to have the commission, and it's a good training for us to refreshen us on the processes and everything, and then also get familiar with them and their processes, and I told him we'd love to have them. Maybe he said maybe we'll come down and would do the training, go to lunch and then do a training or something like that. So, but obviously we'd probably wait till we sign this to do that as well. But it's up to you guys, whatever you want to do.
Okay. Well, I'll entertain a motion and maybe include that in that motion that we will not sign this until Stiefel's work is complete with Sunset. Is that correct? Is that what we want to do? Okay.
All right. I would move for approval the contract with Zions Public Finance Incorporated for municipal advisory services. That contract will not kick in until our current municipal service advisory Stiefel's is completed with the bond issues regarding the Sunset subdivision.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the contract with Zions Public Finance for municipal advisory services with the way it's been described, that we'll hold off until Stiefel is complete with that project. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Dan. And you've got the next item, number 7, discussion and possible approval of 2020 per diem and mileage reimbursement rates.
I actually have the next 2, kind of.
Okay.
So this is an annual little dance that we do. We usually look at our rates, and these are reimbursement rates for county employees and elected officials that for per diem and mileage reimbursement when a personal vehicle is used. Historically, we have tied the per diem to the state's per diem rate because the state has actuaries and economists and financial advisors. They spend some time on this. They look at all of the actual hard costs of what it takes to eat in the state. We keep it fairly simplified, and so the state's rate has gone from $43, assuming that includes breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it's going up to $45, which is an increase of $1 for breakfast and an increase of $1 for dinner. If you were only to go receive say you were only out and going to get lunch, then you would only get that piece. It's not a guarantee that you would have all 3 meals. And the mileage rate we tie to the IRS, who spends even more time on it. This is a rare opportunity, but this is a rare time, contrary to cynicism, including my cynicism, where actually the rate is going down. This last year, the rate was 58 cents per mile, and it's going down to 57.5 cents per mile, so it's going down half a cent. And we have 2 mileage rates which are tied to this. One, which is the actual mileage rate when a county vehicle is not available, and that is we just use the IRS's rate. So it would go from 58 down to 57.5. And then we have a secondary rate, which, assuming the department head signs off on it, if there is a county vehicle available but the personal vehicle is chosen, then we pay a lesser rate. In the past, that's been 43, and we would drop that also a half of a cent to 42.5, just keeping consistent with that spread, what we have done in the past. So, any questions, discussion, comments?
We've never done anything with the group gatherings or in-state caterer list with breaks.
No, and we don't have a hotel rate,
Doesn't really apply.
which the state does, because we just pay the actual hotel, and there's not any abuse from staying at really expensive hotels or anything like that. The state does cap that. They'll approve, and they pay the employee, and then the employee can go stay at in the back of their car if they want, and they get paid the hotel rate. But we just actually pay the hotel rate, not directly to the hotel. So that's not something we mess with. The group gatherings or the in-state caterer list.
All right. Yep. Entertain a motion.
I move that we set the 2020 per diem for Iron County at $45 per day, which is broke down as $11 for breakfast, $14 for lunch, $20 for dinner. You only, of course, are reimbursed for the meals that you do need to have while you're out on your journey. You don't get per diem if you just have breakfast or lunch or just dinner. The full per diem. Also for mileage, a rate of 0.575 if you use your own vehicle. If there's a county vehicle available and you still use your own vehicle, then a rate of 0.425, 42.5 cents. That's my motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2020 per diem and mileage reimbursement rates as described. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Before we leave that topic, something that I've been considering, and I just want to throw it out there for consideration. We can address it and take action later since it's not on the agenda if you wanted to. We're one of the few counties that still does it this way. There is the per diem rate, but in some counties, some cities, they request, and I'm hesitant to go down this road, but I do it out of principle, because it's more work for my office and it's a little bit of a pain for the employees. But that if you're going to a conference or something, what some of them do is they ask that an agenda be submitted and that we don't reimburse where there's meals provided. It's one more thing that my office has to police, and the problem is sometimes you'll go and you'll provide that, and then the meal is an apple and a coffee, and you may not drink coffee, and that's it. That's their continental breakfast. Now you haven't been given them, and so then or trying to get the agenda in and all that stuff. It's just when I go and travel, I of course I have a county credit card, and I only purchase a meal and I put it on the card. I don't ask for per diem, but I'm able to do that, and that's fine. The county only pays the hard costs of me actually traveling, so I don't make any on it. And per diem is what it is because that's generally the average cost of traveling, and I'm probably a little more frugal than some. Not trying to point fingers. I'm just saying that may be something that we consider taking a look at. I think that sometimes we could save a little bit. Sometimes we'll pay somebody for 3 days while they're at a conference, and they get a free meal and their breakfast at their hotel. Sometimes it's not so good. Sometimes it is, and then they'll go to the conference and they'll provide them lunch, and then they'll go out to dinner with as part of the conference, and we just paid out $45 for that, or 43. I don't know. We're one of the few that even does it and doesn't actually require them to submit something. So, something to think about. I'm sure that I'll probably get mugged on the way out of the courthouse today by our employees, but I just think it's something we ought to look at. So,
well, it's definitely an honor system. I mean, if you're provided with breakfast, how could you, with good conscience, apply for your $11 refund?
Well, we usually, a lot of times we pay it out ahead of time, so.
I've always applied to, after the fact. But
That's what I've done too, and it's just been the actual cost of the meal with the receipt provided. And some do it that way, and some, we don't want to put a hardship on employees to. That's why we pay it out ahead of time if they request. And I suppose just like anything, I knew. Sorry to go into the religious field, but I knew missionaries that get a very small stipend, and they would somehow bank money on that. They would eat on 25 cents a day, and on their $7.50 a day, they go home with money in their account. But and it's different for everybody. But I don't know, something to think about and talk about. Maybe we can have a discussion on another time. But while we were approving this today, I thought I'd bring it up so you guys could think about it. One other thing before we jump to number 8, on the subject of fees, and again, this is not on the agenda, so I won't ask for any real even discussion, but I think that we talked about possibly adjusting the fees that we charge on the tax sale. When a property goes to tax sale, we put a fee on there. It costs the county a lot of money to get those ready. We have to hire somebody to come in and do all the research, and all of our time spent, plus we have to send certified letters and so forth. And the discussion was, should we adjust that this year? And
I don't feel comfortable, just as the auditor, making some executive decision to increase our fees. I think that's a function of the legislative body. Not only that, and I was talking with John and also with Mike Edwards, I think that there's some sort of a statutory rule that we're supposed to review our fees on some sort of a repetitive basis, maybe annual. I know that a lot of counties do, a lot of cities do. Did you guys do that at Cedar, Paul? I mean, it's not fun because it can be. I mean, it's somewhat akin to increasing taxes or decreasing taxes, but I think, and so we were going to look into that. And we've got to make a judgment call before our next commission meeting. So I think we'll just go ahead and leave the fees where they are, at least for this year. But our costs are going up to do all that research. It very well may be that it's costing the county money where it shouldn't be. It should be something that burden is placed on the individuals who let it go 6 years into the 6th year for tax sale. There's a bunch of them that we spend a bunch of time on that we never collect a fee because they settle right before that fee is put on, and we've already spent a lot of time and money. So it's kind of hard to come up with an exact cost, but I can estimate it. But we need to do some sort of review of fees, whether or not we're obligated to. I think we need to, at least on a repetitive basis, whether that's set by state statute or whether we just decide we're going to do it every year or 2 or 3 or whatever that is. Just something, again, to think about.
So we've begun to research that a little bit, and I think we maybe even form a committee, but I think we could definitely come up with a comprehensive list. I know that other counties do that, and so we nothing like plagiarizing what other people have done and try and figure out what fees make sense for our county.
And it's a good idea. There may be a case to get rid of a fee. Obviously, we know that inflation exists, and we want to make sure the county's protected there. And it may be that we've been charging too high of a fee in some instances, but there's fees throughout the entire county.
And talking with other folks, they don't necessarily reinvent the wheel every time. There might be 1 or 2 changes.
A lot of times it's rubber stamped,
or no changes in a year.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I have reached out to all the treasurers to get what they're charging for their tax software.
Awesome. Yeah.
Great.
All right. And I agree with you, Dan. I think we ought to review that, and those that incur the fees should pay them. So. Thank you. Number 8, ratification of a contract with the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food, Predator Damage Control Fund for fiscal year 2019.
So this is the 1920. It's something that happens through the winter, and I thought that this had come on the agenda and been signed. The state reached out and said they did not have a signed contract, so we scrambled real quickly. Paul happened to actually be in the office, and so this is it. We felt comfortable at least moving forward with that and ratifying it in this meeting because it was identical to what we've done in the past, with the exception that the state has reduced the amount of total dollars that are available. But and I know we even talked about it in a meeting. That's what confuses me, because we talked about how that amount went down. And I remember Alma actually saying something about it, but regardless, we didn't have a signed contract, which we've already sent the money up to the state. We're now waiting for them to cut money back, and they got looking and they said, we can't cut the check until we have a signed contract. So that's just boilerplate. But I will make this, I will say this, because we need to talk about this. We need to fight up on the Hill in regards to this. The dollars have been reduced, and I think we've got to keep pushing on this to get those reinstated. What happened was there's only a certain pot of money that is that the state has in this program for predation management. What we're talking about is predators that go after livestock, sheep, coyotes, things like that. What happened was there was a group that traps these animals. With our program that we participate in, they go in and they fly with helicopters when the things are right, and they cull the coyote herd to try to keep the there's no natural predators for the coyotes now, so if they don't, they'll grow out of control and basically wipe out a good chunk of the livestock. So up north, which is primarily where it happened, the trappers wanted to increase the fee that they got paid per pelt, and they were able to lobby the legislature and says that makes sense. The problem is it shifted a lot of that money. There's none of that happens down in the southern half of the state. So what happened was the matching dollars were significantly reduced from counties like Iron County, and they went to private. That money goes to some private trappers, which are trapping up at the northern end of the state. The challenge with that is, since there's a magnifying of each dollar spent, our local livestock, they gather up their own money, they bring it to the county matches it, we send that up to the state, and then the state matches the total that we did. Well, the state just drastically cut how much they will match. We made the discussion. That's how I know that we talked about this. Is we decided, maybe it was at budget time we talked about this. That's when it was. It was at budget time. We decided to go ahead and continue the county's commitment, even realizing that part of those dollars were not going to be matched. So the local guys kept the same commitment, the county kept the same commitment, and the state's commitment was drastically reduced. And so if you have a chance to talk with your legislators, I don't think they realized, as happens all the time up at the state, you'll have a special interest group that goes and makes a case, and there isn't a counter argument, so they go ahead and pass the law, and that's what happened in this case. I think we need to review that and see if we can get it restored to the way it used to be, which was much more equitable. Anyways, that's me on my soapbox, but the contract is pretty boilerplate. Other than that, it's just ratifying it.
Do you remember what the amount was previously? I should know that, but I can't. I know what it's 13.5 now. Do any of you gentlemen?
And I should have written down all the amounts. It gets quite complex because of the way it all adds up. And I had to design a spreadsheet with everything, the old way versus the new way, so that we had our justification on why we match what we match. But I really don't remember off the top of my head.
You can look back and get that information to us, so we'll have figures when we go to lobby.
Yeah, absolutely. I can put together information so that you can.
Can I just come up and give
Sure.
a real brief explanation? Got two new commissioners that probably don't even understand what predator control is specifically and how it came about. The predator control program has long been in effect since the early 1900s, and it started out as a rabies program, and has evolved in the 1930s to protection of livestock through the federal government mandate under an act that was born in 1930. It gives the U.S. Department of Agriculture the ability to cooperate with states under a cooperative agreement and MOUs to do predator control for protection of livestock and human health and safety issues. In Utah, the Utah Department of Ag and Food has the authority to manage coyotes, not the Division of Wildlife, but coyotes are specifically put under the Division of Agriculture, or the Department of Ag and Food. And it gives the Secretary or the Commissioner of Agriculture the ability to cooperate with federal governments, with local governments, with private entities such as grazing groups or producers to institute programs for predator control. The programs in Utah that are being instituted is each area has a federal trapper that goes out when there's a problem with ongoing predation where coyotes are killing sheep or bear and mountain lion, and they work to resolve that problem either through trapping the animal and removal or other techniques such as use of guard dogs, whatever else. They also use aerial hunting, helicopters and fixed wing, where the federal government actually provides the helicopter, fixed wing, and some of the pilots to do this. The local trappers are the ones that do the flying in that area. And what you're seeing here is a cooperative program in Utah where the federal government puts in money, the state puts in money, the local counties put in money, and the producers themselves through wool tax or brand tax or whatever else, a special assessment they decide to put on themselves,
pool this money together to make a predator control program. And the division, the state, also contributes money, and in this case, they match the money that the local counties put together for aerial hunting mainly. And this is where the money was cut, and so it means less money for protection in these guys' case to look at coyotes. And they don't go out and just fly willy-nilly wherever. They look at areas where there is a problem, and they focus on them areas in the wintertime to reduce that coyote population, so when the sheep move in that area, they don't have the problems, or the problems are minimized to the best possible. So that's basically where this program is. And if you want more information, I can do a little. We've got an office in Cedar City that for aerial safety, that I can take you over there and give you a tour through that if you want.
That'd be good. I'd like that. Thank you.
Where does the federal funding come in? Is that,
Federal funding comes in mainly through the federal government pays for supervision, so the administration end of it is paid through by the federal government. The trappers in Utah, about probably a fourth of the trappers are federal trappers paid through federal money. The other 3/4 are probably state employees through the UDAF. So,
thank you.
So
Could
on the match,
could you state your name, please? For
Scott
the-
Stubbs.
Scott, thanks.
On the match money, it was cut from 11.5 to 6.9. And we have, as the Farm Bureau and Wool Growers, we have asked the legislature to correct this. But I've told Dan, and I want you guys to know, that we really do appreciate your help. We're losing a lot of lambs. We're doing a lot of things that, besides this money, but we really appreciate your help. If we save just 130 lambs, that's like 20,000. And I hate to admit this, but we're all bad enough managers that we spend all that. We don't save any. And we spend it in Iron County. But we really do appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
And Scott, that's just the Parowan part, right? Or is that just the Parowan? That's the total. I see so many numbers on a daily basis that I don't keep them in my head if I don't have to. So.
Okay. So this is, I guess, I signed this contract on the 21st, so we just need to ratify that. Entertain a motion.
I would move for ratification of contract with the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food and Predator Damage Control Fund for fiscal year 2019. What was the monetary amount?
$13,800.
$13,800.
Okay. That's in the amount of $13,800.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to ratify the contract that was signed on the 21st of this year with the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food for Predator Damage Control Fund for fiscal year 2019 for a total of $13,800. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Dan. And others that helped, Mike and Scott. Discussion and possible approval of 2020 annual cooperative agreement between the USU Extension Service and Iron County.
Thank you. It's good to be here today.
Could you state your name for the record?
You bet. I'm Kathy Riggs.
Kathy, thanks.
I work for the Iron County office of USU Extension, and I'm serving in the capacity as the county director at this time. This is an annual agreement that we enter into every year with, it's a cooperative agreement with the county, the state, and we get this much federal money. And so the agreement is new enough with a lot of different language this year that we thought it would be good to present it to all of you at this meeting today to see if there were any specific questions that needed to be addressed. And John said he would put that up on the monitor to view. I don't know if there's any questions among the commissioners with those that have not worked with us directly in the past, but this is the USU Cooperative Extension is something that has been in existence since, well, the Morrill Act was in 1862, And then the federal Smith-Lever Act came into effect in 1914. And the Utah State Legislature has adopted that for us in our state to promote and encourage USU extension cooperative agreements in all of the counties. And they do provide money to USU for salaries and wages that we use. And the county, by and large, supplies our space. There are some contracted salaries and wages and part-time employment that comes through the county. And our workspace and our equipment, IT support, all of those are part of the county agreement that we very much appreciate. We know that there's at least one county in the state right now that is really battling for their space, their place in the county with extension. And we've never had that issue here in this county, and I just want to express my personal appreciation to you for that ongoing support. I wanted to point out a couple of nuances in this contract. When USU brought on a new team of attorneys 4 to 5 years ago, they revisited a lot of the contracts and wanted to add in language to clarify and be a little more specific in how those agreements would be implemented. So about halfway down on this first page, it says, whereas USU has organized its extension service as follows. It's down a little bit further than that, John. Yeah, right here. It specifies the different categories or program areas where we are asked to provide programming for the betterment of the population here in Iron County. You can see that there are programs in agriculture and natural resources. It used to be family and consumer sciences. USU is now calling it home and community, and then youth development. We have those people in place here in Iron County, and then we can access specialists at USU who also have assignments to the Extension Service to help provide the most current research-based information that will help the population here in Iron County. So in times past, the contract has generally been sent over here and just been passed around for signatures. But we're hoping that today we can point out what needs to be pointed out and hopefully go away with a signed document. Because of the language in this document, it says that it takes effect as of the day of the signed document. We're already a few weeks into the new calendar year, and so we would like to get that squared away as soon as we can, if possible. The only other thing I think would be of benefit to you for clarification would be, let's see, I circled it over here. Down under the operating budget, item number 3 on page 2, it refers to an appendix, Appendix A, and that's where we attached the approved budget for our office that took effect January 1st of this year. And the new item on that Appendix A is item number 2 under facilities. And we've been asked to identify the specific space that we occupy or that has been made available to us by the county. So we've identified these 4 areas. They're at 585 North Main in Cedar City. We were able to move down into the Suite 4 for our general office, and then we maintained Suite 5 that's up on the second story as well as the meeting room space and a storage room up on the upper floor. We also are very much appreciative of the storage container that's behind our building. It's finally been leveled. Thank you very much. So now we can put our new shelving in there. I just want to point out with that storage container, one of the reasons it's so valuable to us, you may not be aware because Chad, when he was the county director, chose not to bring it up as an issue. But about 1.5 years, our main storage unit was broken into and everything was stolen. We no longer have any of our equipment we had for our 4-H camps, our camp chefs, Dutch ovens. There were 2 pedal tractors that are used for the Livestock and Heritage Festival that were stolen. And that was discovered just prior to the festival, not this most recent year, but the year before. And so we're rebuilding and acquiring a few of those things through grants and other ways. But that new unit has been a real benefit to us, and so we appreciate that space. We do have a little garden shed that Candace uses for storage of equipment for the garden that's out behind the visitor center, the natural garden. And that's the space that we are trying to be good stewards over and are very much appreciative of. And then on page 6, it asks for us to add in any other properties that are made available to us. And when they identify things like fairgrounds and multi-purpose space, I could not think of anything that we use on a regular basis that is comp to us, free, other than we can use the visitor center conference room. But that was not really listed as one of the options here, so I did not add that. We do use the Cross Hollows Arena for occasional 4-H activities and pay a lower rent for that, as well as the Heritage Center that's operated by Cedar City. But other than that, everything else in the contract, as far as I could tell, there's no change. It's just adding language to clarify. And it's asking for signatures on page 4 as well as page 6. The contract that I looked at from last year, the signatures on page 4 was signed by just, as I looked at it, Alma signed it last year, and so I assume it's whoever is the chair of the commission would sign that. And then Dr. Ken White would sign on behalf of Utah State University. And they're asking for a signature from our county attorney, Mike Edwards. And then my direct supervisor will also sign. And on page 6, it seems redundant, but it's just an overall agreement then that would be signed by the commission and USU. There's a lot of verbiage in that document, and so I'm happy to take time to try to answer the questions, if there are any.
I have some questions.
Good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's pretty different from previous agreements. One of the questions I had was regarding the term and termination.
That's a good find.
So it sounds like it's a rolling contract for 50 years unless both parties agree to terminate it.
And we've always operated on a year-to-year basis, and unless, I think it's an option. I think it says it can't exceed that, but it'll be for the period, for the effective date, and we can add an end date on there if you would like to make it binding for 1 year with your signatures.
It causes me some concern if we're going to enter an agreement for 50 years. Because these guys are only here for, I'm not suggesting you're not going to be reelected, but 50 years is a long time, and so binding, or if they agree to this, they're binding the county for 50 years. That just seems kind of excessive, and the only way to terminate it is mutually. Usually there's a method whereby one party can terminate it upon notice with 30 days or whatever, something to that extent, and that just seemed a little unusual.
That statement is in here also about breaching of contract.
So if one party breaches it, you can terminate it, but usually you can terminate it without a breach. Either party can say, you know what, you haven't violated, I haven't violated, but I think we're done with this. We don't want to continue doing it in this way. And so that kind of...
And I understand your concern. When we met as county directors from throughout the state that was brought up. This is one of 2 contracts that were sent out to counties to use. This one was less binding, if you will, than the other one that basically says it is for 50 years. This one says it may, I think.
What page is the 50 years?
It's the
page 2 on the top. It's number 1A.
Oh, there we go.
This agreement shall be for the period beginning on the effective date and continue until mutually terminated and in writing by the county and USU, but in no event shall exceed 50 years. And then it says in C, either party may terminate this agreement if the other party breaches any term of this agreement.
So is that new to this agreement, or has that always been in there?
I think it's new language, and I think the reason it's in there is for counties that are willing to just say, you know, you've always been here. USU is part of the state legislative approvals, and Iron County's always been part of that approval process. I don't have an easy answer, and if there's, we have the ability to make some editing changes with permission from, well, if you have those concerns, and then we can run it by the USU attorneys also.
And Dan has a comment.
Just to add to that, it would commit us to that budget level as well, because that is part of the contract, which is to the penny what we approved this year.
Mm-hmm.
But that is also a concern because we don't know what's going to happen budget year next year, then the year after or something like that.
Well, it says that that's a little bit later. That's in 3A, I think is where it talks about budget. So the county will submit a proposed budget to USU using their form, and then they get to tell us if they don't like that budget that's proposed.
I don't think so.
That's
It says that the funds are dedicated to extension services for the upcoming year. That specifies it for me.
So then in 3B, as soon as practical, but within 30 days of receiving a proposed annual budget, USU will either accept the proposed budget by executing it or provide county with feedback and proposed changes, whereupon the parties will expeditiously cooperate to generate a mutually acceptable annual operating budget. It does say that they can vary from year to year. But I'm wondering what happens if, as Dan's mentioning, there's budgetary problems that the county's facing and we cannot reach a agreed upon operating budget.
And it says USU agrees not to exceed any given accepted annual operating budget.
Yeah, I think what that's referring to is if we have an agreed upon budget, you're agreeing not to go in excess of that.
Nothing there precludes the county from negotiating a lower rate if we were in that kind of a situation where we just absolutely couldn't come up with the money.
Yes, but I think, I'm guessing, the reason why I noted that is that one area where the county commission has a lot of freedom is how you set your budget. And that's kind of a county commission authority and power that is usually not interfered with by any other entity. And so when you're committing yourself to a budget and agreeing to certain things in a budget, it just caught my attention.
What if the language back on section 1 was simply strengthened up, where it talked about, maybe will continue until mutually terminated in writing by the county and USU. What if and was just changed to or?
Well, I would like it to not be required to be mutual. I would like it if one party could terminate the
Right.
contract.
I agree.
Oh, that's right. That's what I meant. I guess you'd have to take off
Have that in.
mutually as well.
Either party could cancel this contract at any within written notice.
Them, they can get out, and if they decide, we decide it's not working for us, we can get out, or we can then renegotiate terms at that time. And I'm not saying that because I want
Right.
to USU come here every year and we have to go through this every time. That's not the intent. I'm just concerned about
If we get to a budget crisis, or if
Yeah.
you know, something like
for
that.
whatever reason
Yeah,
things
right.
change, be able to amend that. That's
Well, that's very common to have that kind of club, but they do come every year, which is good. We have a yearly review,
yeah.
Which is
And,
good.
and there are reasons why in a contract you don't necessarily want to have a yearly review. You can have contracts that say it's going to continue unless either party submits something in writing to terminate the contract. Like you could phrase it such that they don't have to come every year. If both parties are happy with where we're at, it's just going to continue as it was. But either party can at that point get out.
Yeah. This one's big enough and has enough different parts to it that as long as I've been here, they've always come in yearly because there are subtle change, or it's different changes. Things change, needs change. So, I think it's important that they come in each year.
Well, one thing that is different is that would be weird for 50 years. Maybe you're going to stay in the same facility for 50 years, maybe not. Right. But the facilities are part of the agreement, and that might change in the 50-year period.
If we fall into Cold Creek, it will.
Yeah, which we hope that doesn't happen.
Well, it changed in the last.
But a lot of the concerns I had were related to the 50-year period and mutual termination as opposed to unilateral termination.
Yeah.
The one other concern I wanted to express to you was in 4. Get there. And I guess it might just be because I don't understand exactly what support staff means, but it says that the county agrees to provide support staff for extension services. And we can do that by allocating funds or employing the support staff ourselves. And then as I read in 4C, it talks about the support staff that the county provides would be county employees and supervised by the county. And I'm not sure,
I'd be happy to explain that a little bit. A few years back, we had some counties that, as a member of USU Extension faculty, my salary and wages and my benefits and everything comes directly through USU. The same with Chad, with Candace, and we are considered the full-time off-campus faculty. There were offices across the state that the county provides our secretarial support. That's part of our contracted services. And also we have a 4-H coordinator that's full-time that is paid with county funds. But in those counties where the university made the proposal to make everybody on the same page and everybody be a USU employee with the same benefits, same vacation, same across the board, it made it easier for like myself as a county director to have authority administratively to direct the affairs within the office and specifically with staff. There were counties that were having issues with secretarial staff, and they said, I don't report to you, I report to the county. And there were issues that were going on that made it so there were huge lawsuits where county employees were suing USU for the efforts of a county director to try to direct their efforts and supervise them. He said, I don't work for USU. Now, in Iron County, we are all under the umbrella of USU Extension because Iron County we bill the county quarterly for those services rendered for secretarial staff, support staff.
And so, yeah, that makes sense. So we're providing support staff for the extension service, as
Yes.
it says. But then it says in 4C, second sentence, any extension services support staff employed by the county shall be governed by the county. So you're not, I guess what we're saying is that we're not considering those people employed by the county, they're just provided by the county?
Correct.
You just provide funds. That's the way we provide them, is by
But
allocating
if you look at
funds.
number 2, it says, and supervised by the county and its administrators.
Well, but that's if they're employed by the county?
Right.
But we're saying that they're not employed by the county.
Correct.
Okay.
Employed by the county. Yeah, okay. So I think we're all
I wonder
clear now.
if we could just make it specific to Iron County and just say, in Iron County's allocating funds for support staff. We're not employing support staff. And then for that reason, they're not answerable to the county supervisors or county policies. They're following under USU.
You're right, take out the option.
Yeah, I remember there being a discussion at the time, our USU, the staff that we provide, are they gonna be county employees or are they gonna be USU employees? And I think we decided at the time, no, it makes more sense for them to be USU employees. Why are we gonna, that didn't, and so I wonder if we just make that clear here.
So is the signing of this you said time is kind of the essence, right? Because you're already into the.
There's a language that says they'd like it within 30 days after the first of the year.
What if we, it seems like there's enough concerns by our legal that we may want to have him work with your legal and clean this up
Well,
to where we're happy, and then.
I wonder if I could just meet with you.
Sure.
And then we can figure out together what it is we're trying to accomplish here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't wanna send a whole document.
So.
And then I can get with whoever it is I need to talk to.
And we can just approve it next meeting, or.
Is that possible?
I think so. Yeah.
I'll get with you after and we can find
Will that work?
Things have, I admit things are a lot more complicated now since they've tried to add clarification and details that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
That were in there until.
Is it conceivable to hash that out before the meeting's over? Probably not.
Well, not if I need to talk with whoever it is up there. But can we just decide right now it's on the agenda next meeting so that it doesn't get delayed any longer?
It stipulates it has to be before the end of the month, but if we agree together here, I don't see why we can't postpone it.
Is there a possibility of, if you come to an agreement, we can hash that out prior to the next meeting and then ratify at the next meeting? If you can come to an agreement prior to?
I think that I'll make sure I could talk with you individually, make sure we're on the same page.
Correct,
But,
right.
But in order to sign the agreement, I think you have to have authorization to do it in the commission meeting to enter the agreement. That's the one concern.
Okay.
You can call a special meeting if it's an emergency and we need to.
Okay. Well, I'd entertain a motion then. Are we going to do we need a motion to postpone it and
Put it on the next agenda and
So-
we'll see if we can work out the details and bring it back.
You.
Yes, I would just move to bump this item to the next agenda, pending some working out of the legal language.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to delay this till the next meeting, until the next meeting, that we can give proper approval for the signing of this agreement. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you for the
Doesn't carry, but
extra
it's
time.
postponed. Thank you very much. Item number 10, discussion and possible forgiveness of taxes due to failure to apply for abatement due to medical problems. The abated amount would have been $798.33 for 2019, APN B-822-1.
Okay. There was one of my notes that I have not been able to locate, but basically, this individual, she was hospitalized due to stroke for most of that period, and was unable to receive the abatement. She would normally receive that abatement. That's about all the information I have.
I don't see any problem with that. We don't want to penalize anybody. I would move for forgiveness of taxes due to taxes due to failure to apply for abatement due to medical problems. The abated amount would have been and would be $798.33 for 2019, parcel number B-822-1.
Oh, and I generally in the past the commission has forgiven the abated amount, but not any penalties or interest. I don't know if that's
just the abated amount and not any penalties or interest. We don't want to go there. We've set a precedent of not forgiving penalties and interest in the past, so I would want to continue with that.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to forgive the taxes due to failure to apply for abatement due to medical problems. The abated amount would be $798.33 for 2019, but that does not include the penalties and interest. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 11, discussion and possible forgiveness of taxes due to failure to apply for abatement due to medical problems. The abated amount would have been $1,227.40 for 2019, number A-189-3.
okay. So this is a very similar one. Mr. Ream is here today. If you would like to speak to that, kind of a similar situation. He was at a VA hospital in Florida for the better part of last year and failed to apply for his abatement. I know that Christine wanted to speak to this. I just texted her. I haven't heard back from her.
She's actually homesick.
Oh boy.
And she didn't have a chance to brief me on the situation. I know she had some qualms about it, but I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So she had expressed some concerns to me as well. Mr. Ream went ahead and paid the full amount. Is that correct? Yeah. Is there anything that you would like to add?
No, I had a stroke,
Yeah.
Lucky that I'm walking and talking.
Yeah,
Do it all again.
and he spent the better part of last year in and out of the VA hospital in Florida. Discovered that he had a stroke through the course of going to the VA hospital. Yes, ma'am.
So, are you not living here anymore, Gary?
No, I am.
So you are living here
No.
now? She had asked.
someone.
Yeah.
I was helping somebody. I'm retired and just living on Social Security and selling stuff, personal belongings.
It looked like your place was empty.
Well, I left to help these people, and I was going to come back, and that's when all this stuff happened. They didn't want me to leave because of they discovered they did all these tests and so on that I had this stroke. And they said, "You need to stay, don't travel." Which he saw all of that, and now I'm hopefully I'm getting better. I couldn't walk, talk to him.
John, do you know the concerns Christine had?
I believe Christine's concerns were about whether or not you were living there as your primary residence.
My primary residence, but
You went to go help somebody and then ended up kind of getting into this thing at the VA hospital.
was going to go for actually just the holiday to help them and then come back, and then that's when this whole thing happened.
And I believe I had that correct, that you had received the abatement in the past?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
So I don't have any problem with forgiveness.
I would move for approval of forgiveness of taxes due to failure to apply for abatement due to medical problems in the amount of $1,227.40 for parcel number A-189-3. That would be not include penalties or interest.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to forgive the taxes due due to failure to apply for abatement due to medical problems. Abated amount would have been $1,227.40, parcel number A-189-3, and that's 2019, not including penalties and interest. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 12, discussion and possible change of assessment for prior years. Parcel numbers D-252-3-5-171 and D-252-3-5-172. Cindy Bullock.
Okay, this is a parcel that is up Canara Mountain, and we have had the cabin on the wrong parcel. It was owned as one parcel at one point and then was split. Two sisters owned it, and the cabin we put on the wrong parcel. We didn't realize, and they didn't notice forever because they were paying the taxes. I mean, out of the family. So they called and asked us if we'd make these changes. They're doing some, some work to try to clean out the family stuff. Anyway, so we fixed that, gone back 5 years and taken the cabin off the parcel that it was on incorrectly and put it on the right parcel. So I think last time I was here we had some, and these we used to just do without bringing them to the commission, but at the request of the auditor and treasurer, we are doing that. So correcting those two. I don't know if you want to.
Is there any tax consequence here? Or it's just
It'll be a wash for the county, but one will get a refund and the other will get a bill.
for the county?
But
And you can only go back 5 years, correct? Is that
I can go back more, but we have kind of a policy that we've gone 5 back just because that's what we can do with rollback on the green belt. So that's kind of what we do unless there's some reason. They're not worried about it. So it's not like the people that have been paying it are worried, because if you go back that far or further than that, it was coming out of the grandparents or the parents or some other fund. I don't know. So
Is item number 13 the same?
So item 13, if you want to go ahead.
Is
and
it?
we'll
Do we want to handle these together or separate? I guess we better handle 12 and then move on. So I'd entertain a motion. Do we need to do we need to approve this or just?
I
I think so.
probably.
Okay. Where we have? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I move that we approve the change of assessment for prior years because of an error that was made on assessors parcel numbers D-252-3-5-171 and 172.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to change the assessment for prior years due to an error as described by Commissioner Adams. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Number 13.
Okay. 13 is also an escaped assessment, but it was a gap in the when they surveyed, and Carrie can maybe explain this better, but oftentimes when you have a survey, one survey will start over here and then one will start over here and then there's a gap. So Bart discovered this when he was measuring some stuff, and we've not ever assessed it. Is that right, Carrie? So it is, again, we will go back 5 years. It's not a significant, anyway, but they have owned it for longer than that, but not been taxed on it, so.
What is the amount we're talking about? So
$27,000 times 1% of the tax rate, so
220.
Yeah, yeah, times 2 because there's 2 parcels, and one is smaller. That's 1, 2, 3. The other's probably 4,500, so that one would be $45.
Yeah. All right. Any other discussion? Not, I'll entertain a motion on that one.
I'll move for approval. Change of assessment for prior years of assessor's parcel number D-779-3 and -4.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to change the assessment for the APN number D-779-3 and D-779-4. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
And they know about this one too, because I think it was actually their survey that found the gap, so.
No man's land, whatever. Did I just sign those? All of them?
Go get Jenny.
Thank you. All right, item number 14, personnel. Jennifer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Originally, I had put Joyce Evans on the agenda because there has been some discussion since the last commission meeting that apparently there was something with her contract that did not go through, and she was paid last pay period from a part-time status. I don't know if I necessarily feel comfortable with submitting it for approval just because of the fact that she needs to stick to an allotted time, and there's going to be many months where she won't get paid at all. And I don't know how that will affect a lot of her status. So I don't know if that just needs to have some further discussion before it gets placed back on the agenda and have it temporarily be paid as a part-time status, or I'm not quite sure as to what at this point. So I can kind of
I thought the issue was talking about contract versus part-time, or
It was.
It was.
And we voted
And
last
we went back and
last
forth.
commission meeting that we approved her contract and paid her, and was going to pay her substantially for a couple of the items that had some issues, but I guess things changed since the commission meeting that I wasn't privy to, so I don't necessarily know a lot about it.
I thought it was resolved that she would go over to hourly. But
That's what I
apparently not completely resolved.
Well, and I did I've got a paper to have you sign for her to change to part-time status. I guess I just have to maybe go on record by saying that she cannot exceed her extended hours, and maybe John will monitor that, because I guess my concern is she's going to get to the time of the fair and she'll be already using a lot of her hours that's already been in place, but maybe I'm not.
So we did have some of those discussions with her, and she understood that her pay would vary quite a bit throughout the course of the year, and she understands the statutory minimum or maximum that she can have on her hours.
So I guess I do have that for submission today, to just change her to a part-time instead of the contract that we had discussed last time. And I guess on record, if she knows that can't be done. She did submit as if she worked 20 hours both
We did have
weeks,
the discussion that, this isn't something that you can switch back and forth on,
Right.
because that would essentially trigger an audit on the county.
Correct.
And she wasn't made aware of that, so.
Okay. So I have that if we're okay with everyone on record with her knowing that needs to be followed very extensively. Also
I'm
on,
not quite sure what we're approving then.
we're just approving that she stays as a part-time status instead of the salary she was being paid last year.
Okay, so do
and
we
then
do-
just kind of bypassing the contract
There has been
altogether.
a bunch of conversation back and forth. I think I think we've come to an agreement with everybody, including the auditor's office, HR, the clerk's office, myself. I think that 2 weeks ago we approved a contract status. Now we're just going to revert back to a part-time status.
Instead of the salary.
There's been a lot of work go into this. I think that's where the agreement is with everybody.
Do we have something in writing, or do we?
I just have the writing that the status has changed, and it will go off of the wage that that was basically put in the 2020 budget for her to be an hourly.
All right.
And it will become part of the record as the minutes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Well, I'll entertain a motion on that one.
I'll approve for status change for Joyce Evans in the Department of the Fair to become a part-time employee working on hourly compensation effective 1/13 of 2020. A non-exempt part-time employee.
Second.
Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the status for Joyce Evans effective 1/13 of 2020 to part-time hourly and not as a non-exempt employee. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, roads.
Next on our roads, we have a promotion for both Dustin Wood and Walker Corey. They have both met the requirements to be promoted from maintenance workers to lead maintenance workers, and I have the paperwork for that as well.
Okay, maybe we can handle those together.
Yes.
I move approval of promotion to lead worker effective 1/27/2020 for Dustin Wood and Walker Corey in the road department.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded for the approval of the promotion of Dustin Wood and Corey Walker. Walker Corey, I'm sorry, Walker Corey.
Your last name.
As has been described. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
I went to high school with Walker, screwing it up for 30 years.
Right.
I didn't even go to high school here.
Oh, man.
Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate it. All right. Anything further from the commissioners? If not, declare this meeting adjourned. Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't have
We
it.
have anything?
We talked about parade.
I missed the last page. I'm sorry. Any non-delegated items due to prairie dogs, relating to prairie dogs and county boards? If
No.
not, we'll declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you for your attendance. Appreciate it.
Mike, we're the ones to meet with a few minutes about the council on environment.
Okay.